Hi everybody, welcome. Come on in and let's talk. I went through royal and celebrity channels this morning and everywhere, all over, virtually every video is about Harry and Meghan. And I'm truly aghast. Really? The world is upside down. England is in a shit state and the biggest concern is Harry and Meghan. Geez, it appears Charles, Torben Andre and Meghan Markle are far more clever and devious than we give them credit for. While Charles is selling out his church and his country, everyone is more concerned about Harry and Meghan and their will they, won't they tactics. All I have to say about them until next week is that a subscriber who has become an online friend and contributor to my work and who will hopefully contribute a little more over the coming weeks has actually contacted an ex-colleague or friend of his and was told this very shortly, very bluntly and very directly. Harry will be safe on British soil. Nothing will happen to him or his family while they are on British soil. You can be assured of that. End of story. He would not elaborate, but my contributor said he drew his own conclusions from that, and I guess you can too. Okay, so this same contact of my friend, contributor, is someone who knows British law and who knows the royal family on a professional level. So again, I'm going to convey his narrative and expertise with comments and opinions of my own. And I'm warning you that this will not be easy to listen to, and it will also point out where I and other YouTubers and even royal mainstream media and experienced reporters are totally wrong on our assumptions. So my first question was, Charles has effectively renounced his role as defender of the Church of England and defender of the Anglican Protestant faith. According to the Act of Settlement, he has to be supreme governor of the church and he has to be a Protestant. So in my opinion, he has not only broken his covenant or his coronation oath, but also the law. And my question to this legal eagle was, do I have it right? And the answer was no. Although the matter is up for constitutional and theological debate, the law has technically not been broken. So to analyze why Charles has technically not broken any laws or rules, not even technically and legally contravened the Act of Settlement, we have to look at the source of the controversy. Well, obviously, we know that the controversial change was tucked away, and I personally would even say hidden away in the Sovereign Grant Annual Report 2025 to 2026. In previous documents, among the King's duties was listed head of the Church of England and defender of the faith. In the latest report, Buckingham Palace, however, stated, His Majesty is Supreme Governor of the Church of England and protects the space for faith within the multi-faith nation. However, okay, now this is according to the legal contributor. Legally, Charles remains fully in compliance with the Act of Settlement 1701 and the Bill of Rights 1689, and for the following, let me add, legal reasons. Number one, he is still officially a Protestant. The law strictly states that the monarch must join in communion with the Church of England. Now, the legal fact is that no matter what was stated in that report, Charles has not renounced his personal Anglican faith and is thus, again, not my opinion, not what I like, but legally still in compliance with the Act of Settlement and the Bill of Rights. Okay, now that is from a lawyer, not me. Okay. Secondly, the description of duties, or then the text in the Sovereign Grant Report, is an administrative overview of the King's public-facing role in Britain. It does not possess the legal power to alter or supersede any statutory law, nor does it formally strip him of his statutory titles. Now, the second question, seeing that I did not like the answers I got for the first one, did Charles, at the very least, break his covenant or coronation oath? The answer, from the position of the more religious, the supporters and congregations of the church, and even some bishops, are arguing that by formally pivoting his so-called job description towards pluralism, he is downplaying his core vowed duty to exclusively defend Anglicanism. There are some who openly state that to them this looks like a backdoor rewriting of his covenant without Parliament's consent. The palace has, however, and you guys can find this online yourselves, the palace has, however, responded to a few bishops stating that Charles has for long held the view that the best way to defend the national church is to protect the freedom of all religious people to practice safely, and that the palace views this as an additional role rather than a subtraction of his core duties. Now, to me, that sounds like gaslighting, okay? But it is my duty to give it to you the way it was given or sent out to the bishops. I can't just make something up myself, okay? So it is what it is. This is what came from Buckingham Palace. Now, if you don't mind, I just want to interrupt this narrative for a minute or two, because going through all of this, and yes, I sincerely apologize if the people who send me or help me with this information are listening. I apologize for checking a respected professional person. Okay, I'm sorry. It is just what I do. Now, I happened to read an article in the Premier Christian News, and I'm flabbergasted that no one, but I mean no one, made any issue about the change of the wording of yet another duty. Now, one of Charles's, and the Queen before him, and the King before her, and for a good couple of hundreds of years before that, was indeed head of the armed forces. Well, In the Sovereign Grant Report, that was changed too. The King will also provide pastoral support to our armed services or armed forces. Excuse me? What? Hit me with a wet fish or a wet rag. I don't care, whatever else. Has Charles and the palace gone stark raving mad? The word pastoral relates to the spiritual guidance and care provided by a member of the clergy, derived from the Latin word for shepherd, pastor. This meaning relates to a spiritual leader like a priest, a minister or bishop, and their duties. For example, a pastoral letter is an official letter sent by a bishop or a church leader to the congregation. Another lesser used option is used in education when referred to pastoral care, meaning guidance and counseling offered by teachers or dedicated staff. So once again, seriously, since when did Charles, in his head, stop being the head of the armed forces and became a pastor, a bishop, a teacher, or a guidance counselor? Does this mean that the armed forces can now stop pledging allegiance to the king? Will they stop parading at a cost of millions for his fake birthday? Or are they going to do the same for every bishop and teacher? But let's leave that there and let's move on. To me, it is clear that Charles is dismantling the monarchy. In my opinion, Charles is not protecting the church, not protecting the monarchy or the country, but he is simply attempting to protect the wealth of the Windsor family. But again, let's move on to the facts and away from the emotion and my personal opinion. So question number 3. Charles is clearly not popular. He has obviously done things in his past very much comparable to his brother Andrew's conduct, for which he had been stripped of his royal duties and titles. It is my opinion that it would be in the best interest of the country and the monarchy for him to step back and hand over to his son, which we all know he won't do. So my question was, how can a nation get rid of the king without destroying the monarchy as an institution? My friends, I'm warning you, you are not going to like the answers yet again. Under the current British law, there is no legal eject button for a monarch. You cannot vote a king out, you cannot impeach him or remove him for conduct which does not violate specific codified laws. The constitutional reality is that the king is not an employee of the nation. He is the head of state, and his position is defined by historical succession, not an employment contract. There are only 3 ways to get rid of a monarch. Number 1, the only proven path being voluntary abdication. In other words, when the monarch himself chooses to leave. However, he cannot just walk away either. He will have to sign what is called an instrument of abdication, and Parliament will have to agree and approve and rely on His Majesty's Declaration of Abdication Act 1936 to make it legal. The problem or issue with this is that it requires the monarch's full cooperation. If he refuses, there is no legal lever to force him into compliance. Secondly, the only legal mechanism by which a measure of power can be removed from the king is indeed contained in the Regency Act. If a monarch is physically or mentally unable to perform their duties, which has to be attested and sworn to by such officials as the Lord Chancellor and the Lord Chief Justice, a regent, usually the next in line to the throne, takes over the monarch's royal functions. Now, this is treated like a temporary guardianship, okay? Not difficult at all. However, this cannot be used to get rid of a monarch, and to even try to do so would be seen as an illegal coup or perversion of the law. Okay, so far, all bad news for those of us, people of the nation and people of the world, who have grown to detest Charles Mountbatten Windsor. But it's not all bad news. There is a third way. And indeed, that would be the revolutionary path, the one I touched on yesterday. But today we'll deal with it in a far less emotional path, and in the words of someone who really knows the legalities and the true situation. Okay, so thirdly, Parliament can technically pass a law to remove a king. A rather unpleasant process, but it can be done. The United Kingdom operates under the principle of parliamentary sovereignty, and therefore technically and theoretically Parliament can pass an act of Parliament to strip a monarch of his title or change the line of succession. Yes, like they indeed did with the Act of Settlement 1701. That is where it came from. That is what it was used for. And it has just remained ever since. The issue or problem with this is that if Parliament forced a king off the throne against his will with no clear legal reasons like madness or treason, it would effectively remove the so-called divine right and historical legitimacy and turn it into a political office. If the next king then only serves at the mercy and pleasure of whatever current government, the country becomes a republic by default. Okay, so here is my take on everything we have heard so far. And I'm going to take a huge risk and say it out loud and in public. Looking at and knowing what we know about Charles's past, in my opinion, Charles is morally no better than his brother Andrew. In my opinion, he is morally worse than Andrew. And one day, shortly before I end my path here on YouTube, I shall lay it all on the line and tell you why. That is, if it has not all been revealed by others by then, which I think is very likely. But never mind. So, although I see Charles and Andrew as morally parallel, the constitutional and institutional handling of the two of them is indeed vastly different. Charles is the head of state and thus immune to prosecution because he holds the crown's prerogative. The hard and sad truth is that Britain has a system which is designed to ensure that the monarch is above the political fray. It does create, truthfully and honestly, an impression of stability and continuity. But it is also a trap, such as we are seeing now. The system is indeed good at keeping a monarch on the throne, but it has almost no mechanism to remove one who refuses to leave. Okay, guys, now I'm sorry to leave it here, but I have to. Somehow this winter holiday, although colder and wetter than previous years, we do seem to be more active and busy and more interrupted than in previous years. So once again, I am running out of time. I do, however, need to finish this by talking to you about the technical and legal advice from this gentleman. We need to talk about his views on the separation of the king from the crown. We need to talk about referendums, and after that, we will again tackle lighter subjects, maybe delve into Meghan and Harry again a little, we'll see. I'm also working on part 6 of the UFO Reptilians Antichrist series, which will also be the last one. We'll do another series on a different subject next. I've not decided what yet. So guys, until we meet again on the next one, please take good care of yourselves, stay vigilant, and stay safe. Why? Because I love you. Bye.